Well, and to switch gears a little bit, American rock music has diffused into a number of genres, and it's, taken all these influences. Where do you see that going in the future? What do you see as the future of rock?
I don't have the faintest idea. I'm a historian.
So you don't think the past dictates the future? Do you not see it?
Of course the past dictates the future, but that doesn't mean that in the present you can tell how it's going to dictate the future. I mean, if there's one thing that you learn by being a decent historian, it's that in every period you're reading people guessing wrong about what was about to happen next. And very smart people. It's not like the stupid people guess wrong and the smart people guess right. It's, toss a coin. And I mean, I can tell you what happened in the distant past. I can't tell you what's happening in the present. And I mean, Jesus Christ, the future, who could possibly? I mean, nobody knows what's happening in pop music right now. We have no vague figures of who's buying what, because everybody's trading and downloading illegally. We have no idea who's listening to what. I've absolutely no idea either what's happening now or what's going to be happening tomorrow, much less in 10 years.
Well, speaking of downloading and file sharing, I mean, how do you see new technologies and the media changing music?
It depends what perspective you're looking at it from. I mean, as someone who started out as a working musician, my trade has been destroyed. I mean, the world where, as a competent craftsperson, someone who played guitar well, but didn't have anything brilliant or innovative or distinctive, you just were good at it. That used to be something you could make a living with. And that's pretty much gone. And what little is left of it is going. I mean, people in their 40s still say, well, yeah, all you can do now is wedding bands. I haven't been to a wedding that had a band in I don't know how long. It's all DJ'd. So, there are 6 studio musicians, and that's all the work there is in the world. From the other point of view, of the people who have something distinctive, but were living, when I was starting out, the ones who had something distinctive weren't getting any work. The people who were doing like AM Top 40 cover bands were working. And these days, the AM Top 40 cover band guys aren't working. The guys who have something distinctive, you can film yourself in your living room, throw it up on YouTube, and have fans in Japan tomorrow. So, as with everything, there are pluses and minuses.
What do you think it would take to get that mid-level musician back?
An atomic holocaust? I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not, okay, there is one thing I will predict about the future. It will be different from the past. That's the nature. That's how we know it's the future. I mean, that's how the world works. The past does not come back.
Right. I do understand. Let me jump back a little bit into your book, though. In the book, you focus a good deal on the working relationships in the Paul Whiteman band. Why do you see Whiteman's group being so pivotal?
It was. I mean, it's like, why are the Beatles so pivotal? It's a combination of who they were, what they did, and the moment that they appeared. In both cases, I mean, the argument is, sort of the thing that started that book happening was the parallel between Paul Whiteman, who probably nobody watching this has ever heard of, and the Beatles. Because Paul Whiteman, what people may have heard of is Rhapsody in Blue, which the analogy I make is it was the Sgt. Pepper of the 1920s, which is to say, depending on how you want to phrase it, it was what took jazz, or in the Beatles' case, rock, and demonstrated that it could be a mature, adult, complex art form. Or, if you want to phrase it the opposite way, it's what took jazz, or in the Beatles' case, rock, which was an African-American improvisational, exciting music, and turned it into digestible pap for middle-class white people. And both cases have both sides of the coin, and what fascinated me is that Whiteman is described in every single book as turning vibrant jazz into pap for middle-class white people. And the Beatles are described in every single book as turning stupid rock and roll into mature art music. And nobody ever does the flip side on either of them. But the fact is, Duke Ellington spent his life talking about how important Paul Whiteman was, because Duke Ellington wanted to write concertos and, you know, diminuendo, crescendo and diminuendo in blue and mood indigo and things like that. And Whiteman made that possible in the same way that the Beatles made it possible for, you know, everything that happened after them in the direction of big, as opposed to punk or lots of other things we love.
Well, okay, speaking of punk, how do you feel about that as a music form or an art form even? Did that change anything for you?
For me personally, no. I mean, I liked the Sex Pistols. I like the Sex Pistols are like Little Richard. I mean, they did one song over and over and over, but it was a good song. I don't need to hear a full album. Not as good as Little Richard, but pretty good. Johnny Rotten's a hell of a singer. I liked the idea of stripping down from the huge overblown groups, but combining it with the idea of not being very good at playing your instrument doesn't excite me. I mean, I don't think energy is improved by ineptitude. I mean, I do think teenage energy is one of the great fuels of music. But an energetic 17-year-old who knows how to play his or her instrument interests me even more than an energetic 17-year-old who just picked up a guitar yesterday and is beating on it.
Do you feel like punk was just another form of pop music, just marketed a different way, or do you feel like it was actually a movement within?
What would that mean?
Well, you know, a lot of people say that punk music was just pop music in disguise.
Honestly, I've never heard that sentence. I mean, the people I know who played punk were people who did it because it was fun. You could just literally, you could pick up an instrument and bang away at it and jump up on stage, and kids went wild, and it was fun. As a movement, I think that's essentially what it was. And I mean, I think long-term, the huge change that punk brought really was Riot Grrrl. Was when all the girls realized, you know, if it's about a bunch of people just grabbing guitars and making noise, you know, we can do that too. The boys can go home now. And that has remained a very important force in rock. And that really comes in then.
Northeast State's a wonderful place to start your career in college, and the campus is beautiful, the teachers are one-on-one.
It was an excellent decision to come to Northeast State. I've learned so much coming here.
I love the school, and everyone is friendly here. This has been the best time of my life. I have really enjoyed being here.
I think if it hadn't have been for Northeast, then I wouldn't feel as happy and as driven if I chose another school.
Step by step, Northeast State is here to get you there. Enroll now at northeaststate.edu.
Thank you again, Mr. Wald, for being here. That concludes the program for today. We met author Elijah Wald and examined a new perspective on popular music. Community is very important to the students at Northeast State Community College, and this program takes a look at a few of the subjects they find important. We encourage you to get out and explore the natural beauty of our region and be aware of all the issues concerning your community. Until we meet next time, on behalf of the students, staff, and faculty of Northeast State Community College, I'm Chris Mitchell, and this is Direction Northeast.